My name is Asia Sampson, and today on Baptism Overland, lights. Believe it or not, with all the upgrades I've done to this Jeep, driving lights were the one thing I have really yet to do. I have a lot of other lights. I have my rock lights, I have my roof lights. I actually did a video for that on how to get zombie lights for $100. Those are the type of things, I got into overlanding and I'm like, oh, I want to add lights to the roof rack. I want to add lights to the bottom and use it when I'm overlanding. And yeah, I use them, but I don't use them as often as I would with driving, which is why I was okay with just buying Amazon rock lights and Amazon roof rack lights. I mean, honestly, I use them once in a while, and even then, without a dual battery system, when we're at camp, I don't keep them on all the time because I don't want it to drain my battery. And the other thing I had done was put IPF lights on the windshield. And those were great, but I never used those either. I mean, when? For a daily driver, you're not going to be using those lights because it's illegal to have those lights that high up and blaring right into people's faces. But at the time, it was one of the first things that when I got my Jeep, I wanted to be cool and have some, lights on my windshield, and it's been good to me. But when it came to driving lights, I haven't really done any upgrades to that, and I will tell you why. All of my lighting upgrades were hinging on two things. One, getting a bumper to mount these new lights, and then two, having the money to actually spend for good quality lights. I can tell you right now, you can go to Amazon all day and find a bunch of cool LED lights for off-road use. How good they're gonna be, I don't know. I mean, it'll look cool, but I didn't want cool factor. Like, I really wanted lights that I can light up the road in front of me. So I knew that as soon as I got a bumper on this Jeep, one of the first things I was gonna do was actually invest in good quality lights. And that's what I did today. I will be reusing my IPF lights. I'm going to use those as off-road lights until I can save enough money to get even bigger off-road lights. I'm thinking the ARB Solus, or I'm thinking some Light Force, something that's like massive. I've always wanted those huge off-road lights in the front, but I'll wait till I have a little bit more money to get that. But I did know that I was going to need fog lights. Getting this ARB stubby bumper, I was going to be giving up my fog lights. So this was an opportunity for me to get fog lights put on that will be sleek, that will look good, and it will also light up everything in front of me. And what I got was amazing. I've been driving around with it for the last 2 days, and I just get giddy every time I turn the fog lights on because, I mean, the color is nice, the spread is amazing. Also, on the windshield lights, now that the IPF lights are going to go from the windshield to the front bumper, I wanted to get good quality ditch lights. Before, my IPF lights were pointing straight forward. I didn't really know better. Now I know that I want good quality ditch lights that will just light up the side so that when I'm driving, I can see what's on either side of me. So I'll show you what I got on that as well. So we're gonna go ahead and do the install video. It's actually already been done. It was the first thing I did as soon as the bumper went on. So stick around and I will show you exactly what I got and what I did. All right, so the first lights I'm installing are my IPF lights. I've had these forever. If you've been following this channel, then you'll probably have noticed that these were on the windshield. I am now removing this from the windshield area and it's going to be on the bumper. I'm going to solder in some new wires to these. Obviously, these are super short. I need to extend them so that they can reach my Apollo Intech auxiliary pod. I'm going to make one of them longer, so it's going to be long. It's going to go from the left side of the bumper all the way to my auxiliary pod, which is on the right side of the engine bay, so it needs to reach all the way there. But on the other side, it'll be a little bit shorter because all this needs to do is splice into that longer wire inside.
Anywhere you go, give it on. Anywhere you say, anywhere.
So here is the wiring for the left light. I've zip tied it already, so it's nice and clean and out of the way when I decide to get a winch. And also over here, I have the wiring for the right light. Now my original plan, I was just going to splice these wires into this wire and then have this go straight to the switch pod. But I realized that what if one day I want to switch out these lights, I don't want to have to remove the entire wiring all the way to the pod. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a connector here and a connector there, and then if I ever want to switch out the light, I just have to unplug the connector, put in new lights, and then go back to the same wiring without having to reroute this all over again. Because right now, this is going through here, up into the engine bay, and I don't want to have to do that again later if I decide to change out these lights. Baja Designs. This is what I'm using for my windshield lights. This is also the very first premium light I've ever purchased for the Jeep. My IPFs are by ARB, but this is the actual first auxiliary lighting that I went ahead and splurged on. So these are the S1's Ambers. I think that these will be great as ditch lights. So what you get in the box, you get the two lights. Here's the wiring harness, and you also get a sticker. And then you have everything else that you might need here for your mount, instructions. What will make this really easy is that these are going directly into my Apollo Intech pod. So if you don't already have an Apollo Intech or S pod or any kind of switch pod in the vehicle, do that, because it makes installations of lights just so much easier. It's literally plug and play once you set that thing up, rather than trying to wire each of these individually. They'll be mounted to the windshield on these A-pillar brackets that I bought. These are just super cheap. All they're doing is holding your lights, so I don't care about not spending a whole lot of money on it. I do have some on the Jeep now. They're the same ones, but they started to rust. I mean, they're not high quality, but for $10, and it took me 3 years before I actually have to change it out, so that's not bad. So I'm using these again, and these come with the pads that you put behind it so it doesn't scratch up your paint. Okay, so here's the wiring that comes with the Baja lights. Pretty standard wiring setup. Right over here you have one wire that goes to one of the lights. This wire goes to the other lights. They come together and join up at this relay. And then from the relay, one of them goes out to your positive wire on your battery, and the other one goes to the negative wire on your battery. There's an inline fuse holder with that. And then also coming out of that relay is your switch. So if you don't know anything about electrical, that's another video for another time, but we don't have to use any of this stuff. We're really just taking out the wire for one of the lights and then the other light, and then taking it off the relay, because we're going to plug these positive and negatives for each of these directly into our switch pod. I'm going to keep the relay, I'll keep the inline fuse holder, and I'll even keep the switch, put it away somewhere in case I need it in the future. You don't want to throw those things away because they're pretty valuable and you paid for it. So we'll go ahead and take these off. Alright, so here's the new mount. Lights will sit up right here. The wire for this end will go through this crack here. Just have to loosen these bolts. They'll go into here and into that gap in there. I'll then take the longer wire. It'll go from inside that gap due to the engine bay. It'll run all the way down to the other end down there. From here on this side, the two will connect together, and then one wire will come down here, hidden, and into my block. Okay, so the wiring is done. You'll see here's the one plug that will go into the light that will be mounted there. Over on the other side, it comes into here, and this is going to the other light. They're placed together here, and then it'll run underneath, and then finally it runs up and into the switch pod there. So if you're not convinced yet that you need a switch pod, this should convince you, because look how clean everything is set up here. These are every single auxiliary light that I have. You just have to plug them right in, and you can bypass the wiring harness that comes with your accessory. So this is really the easiest way to just add lights to whatever vehicle you have. So now that everything is connected there, I'm going to mount the lights and we should be good. The Diode Dynamics LED light bar fog lights. This is what I'm using for fogs, and another light that I did not want to skimp on. When it comes to fogs, I use them a lot. So I decided to go with Diode Dynamics. They produce some really good quality lights at a very, very affordable price. These are also ambers, but this kind of amber is a little bit different than the amber that you get with the Baja designs. The Baja design amber were a little bit more yellow, whereas this one is a tad bit more orange. And I like this one because the color of this will just match my turn signals on the front, so you'll have a good matching look over there. There are areas where I can mount this. I have not yet decided. I can mount this to the very top of the bull bar, but I really don't like it there, although ARB does give you the platform for you to put one there. The other option is to put it underneath the bumper where it's a little bit more discreet. And then the last place that I want to put it is in the very front, in front of the winch. It might look good there, but that will require me to drill some holes in the brand new ARB bumper that I just got. What do you get in this kit? Well, you get your lights. You get some mounts, which I have right here, and I spray painted them black. Then you also get the connector. This is the Deutsch connector. This goes in here, and then the rest they leave open for you. So I'll show you what I'm going to do with that. And then obviously all the hardware and everything that you need is in here. There's no wiring harness for this, which is fine because we're not going to need it. I'm going to see if I can plug this into the factory wiring of the fog lights. Since those fog lights are no longer there, there's wiring for it. I will try to see if this works with that. I know that it should, but when we try to plug in my ARB IPF lights to those fog lights, it just wouldn't light up. And I do not know why. It didn't blow a fuse or anything, but it just wouldn't light up. So I'm going to try it with this, and it might work. I do have the end of a harness here that plugs into the factory fog light connections. So I am going to solder this to the end of this. Put these two together, solder them together, and then when that's good to go, I'll just plug this up into here, plug this into the fog lights that's there now, and see if this lights up. And if it does, I am golden. That's where it's going to go, and that's where it's going to be plugged into. That way I don't waste a switch on my pod because I only have one switch left on there. I would rather have this to the factory fog light wiring. That way I can flick it on along with my headlights. right, wait, stop. So before this goes any further, I need to do an update. So I mounted the light up there, and honestly, I was not a big fan of having to put it up there, but there was no other place on this bumper where I could put it. Plus, ARB already does provide you with mounts up there anyway, so I might as well take advantage of those mounts without having to modify this bumper at all. Originally, I wanted this mount to go in between the IPF lights. The only problem I had with that is that the brackets for these don't line up with the bolts of these IPF lights, which would have been perfect. I would have just utilized the same bolt patterns. It comes just slightly short of it, which means that I would have to have drilled a hole next to these brackets, and I didn't want to do that. I'm not surprised that it doesn't line up. It's not like ARB made this bumper specifically to fit the Diode dynamic brackets. Had these brackets, though, been facing inward, then I would have cleared these brackets and I would have been able to just go ahead and put this in between there. The problem with that is that the way these brackets are made for the Diode dynamics, they're not straight brackets. They kind of come in and then they go into the light. And so I could not just flip the brackets around so that the brackets would face inward and I would drill into this area. So I put it up there, and after a while it started to grow on me. I started to actually kind of like it until I didn't. One night I was driving, I decided to test these out. These are fog lights. They are not driving lights. So when I threw them on, they basically threw out amber light in the same direction as where my headlights are, because they're basically on the same level. So it was throwing out light where I didn't need it because I already had ample light there. Plus, it's a fog light. Fog lights normally do not go this high up on the vehicle. It usually goes a little bit lower. Had this been a driving light, that would have been fine up there. It would have thrown out more light there, but it's not going to fly there, and we're not about having it look good. It's about functioning right. The good news is I went to the Diode Dynamics website and found that they do sell brackets for all of their lights. Now, sure, I could have gone to Amazon and looked for light bar mounting bracket, but if I go straight to the manufacturer of whoever made my light, then you'll know that whatever brackets they create are going to fit your light perfectly. So when I went to their site, I found this. This is their LED light bar bracket for 13-inch light bars. And look how perfect this is. This fits this light perfect, and it does not have mounting tabs that are pointing outwards and getting in the way of anything else. It's all compact right here, so if I still wanted to put it on this ARB bumper between these lights, I mean, look how perfect that looks. So I was gonna put it here, but this light is also so long that I started to worry that if I put it here, will it get in the way of a winch later? It might, and I don't want to do that. Especially if I'm cutting up holes on this bumper. I don't want to be punching a hole there, getting a winch later, and realize the light bar doesn't fit there anymore, and now I have this hole for nothing. So I thought, well, what if I put it down here? This is just the perfect spot for it, for two reasons. Number one, I'm putting the fog light now very low to the ground. So if I needed to illuminate the ground, here it is. Also, if I were rock crawling, which I'm not going to do anything extreme ever, or if I do any trailing, anything that I might hit will hit this bumper first before it hits the light bar. And if it's from below, it will hit this member here before it hits the light bar. So I think the light bar will be perfect down here and will fit here just right and still not be in the way of anything hitting it. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and put it down here. All I need you to do is pray for me as I cut holes in my new bumper. But that's okay, because the holes will be down here. If I decide I don't want the light bar there anymore, those holes are just going to blend right in with the bumper. You're never going to really notice that there are two gaping holes down here. Plus, there's already some slots down here anyway. Hopefully, it'll work out. I'm just going to do some test measurements and make sure that this can clear everything back here. And if it does, that's where we're going. All right, so there's my new setup. What do you guys think? I think it looks great. Not only does it make the front end of the Jeep look really aggressive, but also, man, that thing lights up the night. You can't really tell in the video very much, but it lit up everything and I couldn't be more happier. Like, I've never driven that way before. Having all those lights like that, I mean, there was not one thing that I couldn't see, which is what I'm saying. So the IPF off-road lights, the ones I used to have on my windshield that are now on my front bumper, they're not as bright as I would like them to be. Now, don't get me wrong, they shoot out very far. They're spot beams used for driving and they're meant to shoot down really far. You just can't really tell that. But because they're next to ultra bright LED headlights, they're kind of getting drowned out. I may change those out. Not anytime soon. I have other priorities, honestly, that I need to get to prior to just getting more lights. But the IPF lights, they're incandescent. I can do better, which is why I said I do kind of want to upgrade them to maybe an ARB Solus or maybe some Light Force. I really want that chunky off-road light look on the front of the Jeep. I just think that looks really cool. Plus, if I can get some LEDs and spend a little bit more money on those, then I know they will suit me well. So second thing, fog lights. I went and got Diode Dynamics and man, am I impressed. These Diode Dynamics are amazing. And I like that they're not the two round fog lights anymore. I like the little discrete light bar at the bottom of the Jeep. It's amber, looks really good. As soon as I was able to get the new bracket from Diode Dynamics, I was able to put it exactly where I want and angle it the way I want. And I've been driving around town with these fog lights on a lot because I'm just so impressed with the coverage that they give. So big ups to Diode Dynamics. I may get them also for if I ever want to upgrade my roof lights and whatnot, because the lighting on it is just great. And then finally, windshield lights. With the IPF lights now being moved from the windshield over to the bumper, I wanted to get new windshield lights, but this time do it properly. Not get these humongous lights that are just going to point straight forward. I don't need light there. I did need lights for the ditch. So, Baja designs. When it comes to off-road driving and you're relying on these lights to be able to see everything around you so you don't fall off the side of a cliff or hit something, and you're driving down a trail and you want to be able to see everything and rely on those lights, then yeah, get the high end, man, because that's worth it. It's worth to spend the extra money and having that kind of light coverage. I don't mind going cheap on certain things with this Jeep. In fact, I try to promote that because you don't have to spend so much money just to do things to your Jeep. For seam lighting, for lighting on your roof rack, lighting for your rear, things that you're not really going to use unless you're at camp, I mean, you don't have to spend that much. But when it comes to the important things, things that are safety related or things that are visibility related, get the kind of products that are backed by a great company. And I've always loved Baja Designs. I just knew I couldn't afford them then, but if I was going to upgrade these windshield lights and get better ditch lights, then I knew I wanted to get something that stood out and that will be reliable and that will light up everything that I needed to light up. But that's it for the video. This really was just an extension to the stubby bumper install that we did last week, so I wanted to follow that up with the new lights that I got. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and also don't forget to follow us at Baptism Overland. My name is Asia Sampson, and I will see you next time.